I thought I had it all, a husband who adored me, a baby on the way, and a best friend who'd been like a sister since childhood. When she lost her apartment, I offered her a place to stay, our guest room, our kitchen, our home. I never imagined that while I was busy growing our child, they were busy growing closer behind my back. This isn't just a story about betrayal, it's about what happens when your whole world falls apart at the exact moment you need support the most. Part 1, The Welcome That Destroyed Us. There's a photo on our living room wall, me, Alex, and Lila. I'm about 7 months pregnant, sitting on the edge of our cream-colored couch, hands resting on my belly. Alex stands behind me, his arms gently draped over my shoulders. Lila is sitting on the floor in front of me, her head tilted back toward the camera with that easy, carefree smile she always had. I used to love that photo. Now, I can't look at it without feeling sick. It started with good intentions, doesn't it always? Lila had been crashing on a friend's couch after her breakup with Eric. They'd been living together for 2 years, and when it ended, explosively, she had nowhere to go. I didn't even hesitate. We had a big house, a cozy guest room, and a front porch perfect for late-night talks. More importantly, we had history. Lila and I met in 4th grade and never looked back. She was there for my first kiss, my worst heartbreak, and the night I met Alex. She helped pick out my wedding dress. When I found out I was pregnant, she cried harder than I did. So when she called me sobbing at midnight, I said, "Pack your things, come home." Alex wasn't thrilled. He didn't argue, but I could tell he wasn't as eager as I was. Maybe it was the added stress. The baby was due in 2 months, and we were both working long hours to keep the small marketing firm we'd built afloat. Still, he agreed, and Lila moved in that weekend with a couple of suitcases and a gratitude that felt genuine. At first, it was kind of nice. She made us dinner. She helped paint the nursery pale green. She brought me decaf coffee in bed and foot massages after work. Alex seemed to soften, too. I remember one night watching them laughing together while hanging a mobile above the crib. I felt this warm pride, like my world was expanding, like I'd made the right choices, surrounded myself with the right people. But little moments began to shift. I started catching things, too subtle to confront, too sharp to ignore, a glance that lingered a second too long, a shared joke I wasn't part of. Once, I walked in from the laundry room and found them standing very close in the kitchen, too close. They jumped apart like kids caught sneaking candy, and Lila laughed too loudly, brushing past me like nothing had happened. I told myself I was tired, hormonal, paranoid, that these were 2 people I trusted most in the world. And then came the night I couldn't sleep. It was just after 2 a.m., and I got up to grab a glass of water. I passed by the living room, where the glow of the TV still flickered. I expected to find Alex alone, maybe passed out with a documentary playing. Instead, I saw them both on the couch, whispering. He was shirtless. She was curled up under his arm. Neither of them noticed me. I didn't say a word. I just turned around and went back to bed. The next morning, I told myself I had imagined it, that I had dreamt it, that surely Lila would never, and Alex. No, not them, not to me. And I believed that, wanted to believe it, until the day of the baby shower. We'd planned it together, me, Layla, and Alex's sister, Emma. It was supposed to be low-key, just a few friends and family in the backyard with cupcakes, silly games, and baby blue balloons. Lila was oddly distant the entire day. She flitted around, pretending to be helpful but keeping her eyes on Alex, watching him, smiling only at him. And then, in the middle of the afternoon, I walked into the downstairs bathroom to find her phone buzzing on the counter. My name wasn't on the screen, but Alex's was. Curiosity won. I unlocked it. The passcode was the same as always, 0625, the date we met at summer camp. What I found wasn't just suspicion, it was confirmation. Dozens of messages, nothing explicit, just enough to drown me. Miss you already. That night was perfect. She has no idea. And then, the photo, a mirror selfie, his arms wrapped around her waist, her smile, his hand under her shirt. I felt my knees give out. The sounds of laughter and music outside faded like background noise in a nightmare. My heart didn't break, it detonated. They didn't even wait for the baby to be born. And that was the moment something inside me shifted. I wasn't ready to confront them, not yet. But the part of me that believed in us, in them, that part died in that bathroom. Part 2, Smiling Faces, Silent Rage. The rest of the baby shower felt like an out-of-body experience. I walked back outside with Lila's phone still in my hand. Face calm, movements measured, a soft smile painted on like makeup. No one noticed the earthquake that had erupted inside me. I watched Alex play cornhole with his brother, laughing, beer in hand. I watched Lila chat with Emma near the cupcakes, holding a blue balloon string like she was the proud aunt-to-be. I watched everyone celebrate a life that hadn't even arrived yet, unaware that the life I had was already gone. When it was finally over, when the last guest hugged me goodbye and the backyard was littered with plastic cups and wrapping paper, I sat down on the patio bench and stared at them, Lila and Alex, laughing over some stupid joke about diaper brands. My throat was dry, my hands were shaking, but I said nothing. They didn't know I knew. And for now, that was power. That night, I lay in bed pretending to be asleep while Alex climbed in beside me. I felt the mattress shift with his weight. I felt him place a hand on my stomach. Gentle, protective. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw his hand off, shove him out of our home, but I didn't. I stayed quiet. I let his betrayal soak into my skin like poison. Because I needed time. Time to think, to plan, to understand how long this had been going on, and how deep it went. The next morning, I started watching them, closely. I noticed how often they accidentally touched, how they avoided eye contact when I entered a room, how Lila started wearing more makeup, tighter shirts, how Alex laughed harder at her jokes than he ever did at mine. I saw her sit in his lap when she thought I was out back. I heard them whisper in the hallway behind a closed door. I tracked their lies, small ones, easy ones, the kind you'd miss if you weren't paying attention. But I was paying attention now. Every smile from her felt like a slap. Every kiss from him made my skin crawl. I was sleeping beside a stranger, living with a ghost of a friend, and carrying a baby that neither of them deserved to be part of. The worst part? I didn't know how much was real anymore. Had Alex ever truly loved me? Or had it all been habit, comfort, a convenient role I filled until someone better came along? And Lila? Had she ever been my friend? Or was I just the stepping stone to the life she wanted, the husband, the house, the child? I started to notice patterns. On Mondays, Alex suddenly had late meetings. On Wednesdays, Lila made herself scarce for hours. I began checking locations, calls, timing. Every breadcrumb added up. Every quiet whisper behind a closed door became louder in my head. It wasn't paranoia anymore. It was truth. Ugly, filthy, undeniable truth. One night, while Alex was working late, I found Lila in our kitchen wearing his hoodie. She was sipping tea, acting like she belonged here, like this was her home, like he was hers. I asked her casually, "Have you talked to Alex today?" She blinked just for a moment, before answering with a sugary smile. "No, not since this morning." "Why?" "Liar." I wanted to scream it in her face. I wanted to throw the mug across the room and watch it shatter the way she shattered everything else. But instead, I smiled right back. "No reason," I said. "Just wondered if he mentioned that doctor's appointment." She paled, just for a second, and then laughed it off. "Oh, no, he didn't. Hope everything's okay." There was no appointment, but I'd seen it, a call from him to her, time-stamped 20 minutes before I walked into the room. I knew then that I couldn't let this continue. Not until the baby came. Not after. I had to end it. On my terms. But how do you destroy two people who have already destroyed you? Part 3, The Silent Storm Inside. Days blurred into one another, each filled with quiet suffering and a growing storm that I refused to let anyone see. On the outside, I was still the glowing, expectant mother, smiling at coworkers, thanking guests for gifts, and pretending our home was a sanctuary. Inside, every heartbeat echoed with betrayal. I started writing, not a journal, not a diary, but letters I never meant to send. To Alex, to Lila, to myself. How could you? How could you both do this when I carried his child inside me? Did you even think about me? About us? I folded each letter and hid them away, like evidence of a crime that had no trial. Alex was more distant by the day. He stopped pretending to be gentle with my belly. He no longer kissed me goodnight. His touch was colder, like ice sliding over my skin. I overheard calls on his phone that weren't just whispers anymore, they were full conversations. Laughter, plans. And Lila. She transformed into someone I barely recognized. The carefree girl I'd known was gone, replaced by a woman with a secret smile, a knowing glance, and a softness in her voice when she spoke to him that she never reserved for me. I tried to talk to Alex once. "Are you happy?" I asked, voice cracking. He shrugged, eyes darting away. "I don't know what you want me to say." "I want the truth," I whispered. He said nothing. That silence cut deeper than any words. One afternoon, I found myself alone in the nursery. The pale green walls felt like a cage closing in around me. I traced the soft outlines of the crib, imagined our child growing, laughing, living in this room, a room shadowed by their betrayal. Tears spilled without warning. I wanted to scream, to throw things, to rage until my lungs burned. But instead, I held my belly and whispered, "You deserve better than this." That night, I dreamed of leaving. Not just the house or the marriage, but leaving everything behind, the pain, the lies, the endless cycle of hope and heartbreak. I imagined packing a bag, taking the baby, and disappearing. But dreams were fragile, reality was brutal. I had no family nearby, no place to go, no one to turn to, and the due date was fast approaching. I was trapped. Yet, somewhere deep inside, a seed of resolve began to grow. If they thought I'd break quietly, if they believed I'd disappear without a fight, they were wrong. The betrayal had changed me, but it hadn't defeated me. I was going to face them, all of them. And I was going to reclaim my life, no matter the cost. Part 4, The Breaking Point. The last few weeks of my pregnancy were supposed to be peaceful, full of nesting and baby clothes, of name lists and shared laughter. But instead, every day felt like walking a tightrope over fire. I kept replaying everything, every kiss they stole, every lie they told, every moment they laughed while I was breaking apart. I knew if I confronted them too soon, I'd lose control, and if I waited too long, I might lose myself. So I waited, I watched, and I planned. It was a Wednesday. I remember because Alex always claimed to have a late client call every Wednesday. But this time, I followed him. I waited 15 minutes after he left, called a cab, and told the driver to tail his car from a distance. I felt like a spy in my own life, sitting in the back seat with one hand on my belly and the other shaking uncontrollably. He didn't go to the office. He went to a hotel. I watched him walk inside, and less than 2 minutes later, Lila appeared from the other side of the building, hood up, sunglasses on. But it was her. I knew it. I'd spent too many years looking at her not to recognize her even in disguise. They kissed in the lobby like teenagers, like they hadn't just left the same house I lived in, like I was nothing but a burden they were forced to endure until the baby was born. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I took out my phone. And I recorded it. When I got home, I stared at the video for hours, over and over, proof of everything, and yet, it didn't feel like victory. It felt like mourning. Mourning the life I thought I had, the man I thought I knew, the friendship I thought was real. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I packed a bag, not for me, but for the hospital. I was 37 weeks. My doctor had warned me about stress triggering early labor, and I could feel it, the dull ache low in my back, the occasional tightening that was more than just Braxton Hicks. But I wasn't ready, not yet. The next morning, I went to Lila. She was in the kitchen, humming to herself while making coffee. She didn't look guilty. She looked content, like everything was going her way. "Layla," I said softly, "can we talk?" She turned, flashing that fake friendly smile. "Of course, everything okay?" I held out my phone and pressed play. The color drained from her face instantly. Her hand trembled around the mug. What is this?" she whispered. "You know exactly what it is," I said. "I know everything. The hotel, the lies, the sneaking around. You've been sleeping with my husband." She opened her mouth, closed it, tried again. "It's not what you think." "No, don't insult me," I said coldly. "You don't get to lie anymore." She sank into the chair like her legs gave out. "I didn't mean for it to happen. Save it. I don't care about your excuses." Her eyes brimmed with tears. And for a second, I saw the girl I once trusted, the friend who held my hair when I was sick, who helped me pick my wedding dress, who swore we'd be sisters forever. But she killed that girl, slowly, quietly, with every stolen glance, every hidden touch. I want you out of this house by tomorrow, I said. Don't wait for Alex. I'll deal with him myself. Lila opened her mouth to argue, but I turned and walked away. I wasn't going to waste another breath on her. That night, when Alex came home, I was waiting. The lights were off, my hospital bag sat by the door, and in my hand, I held the phone. He walked in, surprised. Why's it so dark in here? I said nothing, just pressed play. He stared, frozen, mouth slightly open, watching himself commit the betrayal he never thought I'd uncover. When the video ended, I looked him dead in the eyes. Get out. Part 5, The Fallout. Alex didn't move at first. He just stood there, stunned, as if reality hadn't caught up to him, like he needed me to say it again, to give him more time to find a lie he thought I'd believe. I said get out. I repeated, quieter this time, cold, final. Wait, Anna, let's talk about this, he said, stepping forward. I took a step back. Don't you dare come closer. His expression twisted. You've been stressed. You're pregnant. This isn't the time to. No, Alex. The time was before you slept with my best friend, before you turned our marriage into a joke, before you humiliated me in my own home. He looked around like the walls were closing in. I didn't mean for it to happen. It got out of hand. Was it out of hand when you kissed her in our hallway? When you held her in that hotel lobby like I never existed? My voice cracked, but I stood tall. Did you even think about our baby? His mouth opened, but no words came. Coward. I pointed to the door. You don't live here anymore. You don't sleep here. And if you want to be in our child's life, you'll do it through a lawyer. The anger came next, the part of him I always feared but never admitted. His eyes narrowed, his jaw clenched. So you're kicking me out? He snapped. After everything I've done for you? I almost laughed. Everything you've done to me, you mean? He grabbed his keys off the counter, jaw set like stone. You'll regret this. I didn't flinch. No, you will. When the door slammed behind him, it was as if the house exhaled. Silence wrapped around me. But it wasn't peaceful. It was hollow. I slid down the wall and cradled my belly. The baby kicked softly, almost like a reminder, you're not alone. Tears came then. Deep, heavy sobs that shook me from the inside out. I cried for the woman I used to be, for the love I thought was real, for the future that now looked like ruins. The next day, Layla was gone. She didn't say goodbye. She didn't leave a note. She just vanished, like a ghost of my past, finally exorcised. But the damage she left behind clung to every corner of my life. The weeks that followed were a blur of doctor visits, sleepless nights, and paperwork. I met with a lawyer. I filed for separation. I changed the locks, blocked numbers, and deleted years of photos I once cherished. People asked questions. Some friends knew. Some pretended not to. Whispers followed me like shadows. But I held my head high. I wasn't the one who should be ashamed. At 38 weeks, I went into labor. Alone. It started with a dull ache that rolled through my back and then clenched tight across my stomach. I called a cab. No family, no husband, no best friend. Just me. At the hospital, the nurse asked if someone would be joining me. I shook my head. Just me and my baby. Hours passed. Pain bled into panic. Then surrender. The world narrowed to the rhythm of my heartbeat. The screams I couldn't hold back. The life trying to enter a world I wasn't sure was ready for it. And then, silence. Followed by a cry. A single, pure, defiant cry. They placed her on my chest, and I broke. She was perfect. Pink cheeks, tiny fists, eyes that fluttered open like she'd been waiting to meet me forever. In that moment, everything else disappeared. The betrayal, the pain, the wreckage. None of it mattered. Only her. Only us. Part 6, Rebuilding from Ashes. The first night home from the hospital was the quietest my house had ever been. No Lila clinking mugs in the kitchen. No Alex pacing on a fake client call. No whispers behind my back. Just me. And her. My daughter. I named her Isla. The name had been on our list, but it felt different now, like it belonged to just the two of us. Soft, strong, a name untouched by betrayal. The house felt unfamiliar with just one heartbeat echoing down the hallway. I had dreamed of bringing a baby home to a world filled with warmth and love, not into the ruins of a shattered marriage. But I did it anyway. Every day was a mix of magic and mourning. Isla's first smile felt like the sun coming through storm clouds. But folding away the onesies Alex picked out made my chest burn. Feeding her in the rocking chair Lila helped assemble? Torture. I couldn't escape the ghosts in my own home. Sometimes I'd hear a noise at night and half expect to find them, together, whispering lies. Other times, I'd wake up forgetting it all, until the silence reminded me. Alex tried to come back. Of course he did. 3 weeks after Isla was born, he showed up at the door with flowers in one hand and guilt in his eyes. "I just want to see her," he said. I stood in the doorway, holding Isla tight against my chest. "You can talk to my lawyer." He laughed bitterly. "Is that what this is now? Legal threats?" "No," I said calmly. "It's protection." "Anna, come on. I messed up. I know that. But we were good once. We can be again." "You were good at pretending," I said. "Now you can pretend you have a new life. With Lila." He flinched. That name still hurt him, not because he lost her, but because I dared to say it aloud. "She's gone," he mumbled. "Left town. Doesn't even return my calls." I shrugged. "You chose her. Don't look at me when she chooses herself." For a second, he looked like he might cry, but I didn't feel sorry. I felt free. I closed the door. A month passed, then 2, then 3. The weight of it all started to lift. I stopped jumping at shadows. I painted over the hallway where they kissed. I took down our wedding photos and replaced them with pictures of Isla, laughing, yawning, learning to sit. My world didn't shrink, it just reshaped. One day, I got a letter in the mail, handwritten, no return address. I knew the handwriting before I even opened it. "Layla, I know there's no apology big enough. I live with what I did every day. You didn't deserve any of it. I lost the best friend I ever had, and I don't expect forgiveness, but I needed to say it. You were always the better person, and I'm sorry." I read it once, then again. Then I tore it up. There are some wounds words can't heal. Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's choosing peace over poison. And that's what I did. Isla turned 6 months old last week. She's teething now, loves mashed bananas, tries to babble when music plays. She's growing, and so am I. I used to think my life ended the day I found out. But the truth is, it started. Because from those ashes, I found a version of myself I never knew existed. And she's stronger than betrayal ever was. Part 7, Ghosts don't knock, but they return. 6 months into single motherhood, I found a rhythm. It wasn't perfect. There were nights I sobbed in the bathroom just to feel some kind of release. Mornings where I watched couples in coffee shops and felt a knot of grief tighten in my throat. But I kept moving. One day at a time. I returned to work part-time, slowly stepping back into the world with Isla in tow. My boss was kind, the office felt safe, and being there reminded me that I was more than just what had happened to me. I was still capable, still intelligent, still me. Isla went to a small daycare just a few blocks from my office. The first time I dropped her off, I sat in my car and cried for 10 minutes. Not because I didn't trust them, but because I never imagined doing this part alone. Alex never showed up again. He sent a lawyer, requested joint custody. My lawyer responded firmly, supervised visitation only, until further review. I didn't want to keep Isla from her father. I wasn't trying to be cruel, but I needed to be sure he was safe, stable, and not just using fatherhood to feel better about himself. His betrayal didn't erase his rights. But it did give me the right to protect my child from instability. The court scheduled a hearing. I dreaded it like death. The night before, I sat on my couch, holding Isla as she drifted to sleep on my chest. Her breath was soft, her hand, tiny and clenched around my shirt. How do you explain to a baby that her father's love wasn't steady, That he once left her mother bleeding inside from heartbreak and walked away like it was nothing? You don't. You show up. You fight for her. You fight for yourself. At the hearing, Alex looked different. Tired, thinner. That confident smugness he always wore like cologne had faded. He barely looked at me. His lawyer did most of the talking, pushing for weekend visits, even overnights. Mine countered with facts: his infidelity, the instability, his previous absence from medical appointments, and emotional abandonment during pregnancy. I stayed calm, collected. I had proof, dates, photos, missed calls, the works. When the judge asked if I had anything to add, I stood slowly and said, "Your Honor, I'm not here to punish him. I'm here to protect my daughter. I want her to know her father, but I need to be sure he's someone worth knowing." Alex looked up at that. Not with anger. With shame. That was new. The judge ruled in our favor: supervised visits at a neutral facility, no overnights, no unsupervised contact, until further review after a 6-month evaluation. It wasn't revenge. It was safety. That weekend, Alex met Isla officially. She stared at him like he was a stranger, because he was. He brought a stuffed giraffe and wore a forced smile, like he didn't know what to do with his hands or his guilt. She didn't cry, but she didn't reach for him either. He left after the hour ended, quiet. Later that week, I got another message. Not from him. From her. Layla. Again. This time it was a photo. A hospital bracelet. A baby bump. A short message. Looks like karma doesn't forget. He left me too. For someone else. Pregnant and alone. I thought you'd want to know. I stared at it for a long time. Not because I felt satisfaction, I didn't. I felt numb. Then I deleted it. I held Isla that night like she was made of gold. I whispered to her everything I wished someone had told me when my world fell apart. You are not broken. You are not abandoned. You are not defined by what others chose. You are mine, and I will never, ever leave. And I meant every word. Part 8. The end was the beginning. 1 year after Isla was born, I stood in front of a mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back at me. Not because she looked broken, but because she didn't. Her eyes were steadier now. Her posture, straighter. The sadness hadn't vanished, but it had softened around the edges, like sea glass worn smooth by time. I'd survived. I was surviving. And more than that, I was thriving. The divorce had finalized 2 months earlier. The papers came in the mail, thick and anticlimactic. Just ink and signatures, but they carried the weight of a funeral. I didn't cry. I made tea. I rocked Isla to sleep and filed the envelope in a drawer I no longer opened. There was nothing left to grieve. Alex's supervised visits remained awkward and infrequent. He came sometimes, missed others. Our daughter grew cautious around him. She didn't dislike him, she just didn't know him. I never poisoned her heart with stories. She'd grow up and form her own truths, but I never lied either. She'd learn that love, when genuine, never asks you to abandon yourself. Layla never contacted me again after the photo of her ultrasound and betrayal. I later heard she moved back in with her mother in Vermont. I sometimes wondered if she had her baby, if she ever told the child the truth about their father, but I didn't dwell on it. Her story wasn't mine to carry anymore. For a long time, I feared I'd never be able to trust again. That love would always look like a ticking bomb hidden inside a gift box. But then something shifted. Not all at once. Small things. A neighbor who always helped carry groceries. A new coworker who made me laugh until I forgot why I stopped. Late-night journaling that turned into writing poems again, something I hadn't done since college. I started letting people in again. Not into my heart, not yet. But into my life. One quiet Tuesday, as Isla napped, I sat on the porch sipping tea and watching the wind dance through the trees. And I realized I was okay. I was more than okay. I'd built a new home, not just for Isla, but for me. One not filled with lies and whispered betrayals, but with warmth, honesty, and love, even if that love was just me learning how to be good to myself again. Sometimes, I still remember the woman I was when I walked into that hospital, swollen with life, swollen with hope, only to leave it shattered. But she didn't die. She evolved. She crawled through the wreckage, bleeding and bruised, and rebuilt herself brick by brick. She faced the people who tore her heart apart and didn't let it harden her. She chose grace over vengeance, clarity over chaos, herself over everything else. And every time I look into Isla's eyes, those same stormy eyes that once belonged to the man who broke me, I don't see pain. I see legacy. Not his. Mine. Because out of betrayal came purpose. And from ruin, I built us a kingdom.